Well, hello there. People have asked me, how are you doing this blanket as a 10 stitch when the center looks like this? More symmetrical. Well, it looks a lot more symmetrical. And then it's going around in the 10 stitch pattern after the middle. And the benefit of doing this one is that what you're going to have is a more symmetrical, and when you do your corners, you're just going to do a corner 1 and 2 to turn this way. You're not going to have to do it double at the beginning. And then you'll come up to the corner, have to do corner 1 and 2, turn, corner 1 and 2, turn, and keep going. And the reason that you don't have to is that we're not going to take these, and there's two ways of doing it. It's just you picking up the stitches on some kind of a stitch holder, or I just usually do it with stitch markers, or you can bind it off, but binding off will give you more of a ridge than just picking up the stitches. And then you come around to turn the corner, and then you pick up these stitches just like they're edge stitches. So that's how you get this. So it's very, very easy to do. I started out with 20 pegs on this one, bound off 10, so then I was doing a 10 stitch. I have another one and another stitch I'm doing, and I did 30 pegs and then bound down. So you can do it with any amount of pegs. You can have this as wide as you want, and then you can do this any way that you want. And so that's why this starts here, the ridge starts here to go around, because this is where we turn the corner. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to do this kind of blanket. If you need at any time to look a little more at how to do 10 stitch blankets, I do the other video of the owl eye 10 stitch blanket. I will do this one in owl eye. So okay, I'll put you on pause and I'll get set up to start to show you how. Okay, so the other one was done on 3/4 inch gauge with Charisma yarn. With this one I'm going to use a number 6 yarn, and I thought I would do it a little bit faster to show you. So I made a gauge for it, and I made a little over a 1 inch gauge using an MS loom and going in every 3rd peg. But I mean, this can be done with any yarn on any loom that suits it. So to cast on, you just make a slip knot, and I'll get myself a loom hook here. There we go. And keep it here, but we won't need it. This is so big. I gotta find a place to put it on here. Okay, so we just go under and scoop up a loop. And then I'm just going to do this cast on. You can do pretty much any cast on. You just have to be able to have loops to pick up. And yeah, you know what? This probably won't be the best one to have loops to pick up. I think what I'm going to do, and this one will be easy for everyone, because you're never going to see this edge. You're going to end up picking it up as you go around. So let's just put it on with the double E-wrap. Oh, we're just going to E-wrap it like that. Put on, E-wrap it. But you can use anything to put the stitches on, because you're just going to pick them up. But this will give nicer, easier loops to pick up. And okay, so I'm going to do, I don't need to do a whole 20, so maybe what I'll do is, if I do 10, then I can cut down to 5. So maybe I'll do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because this is a really big gauge loom, and they did only 5 stitches on the zippies when they did a 10 stitch type of blanket. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll do 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you can do this any shape you want. The last one you saw was done more squarish, and so I'm just gonna knit back and do the owl eye back. So I have lots of videos of how to do the owl eye stitch, and this whole thing I'm going to do in owl eye to show you how to do this. So wherever peg you're on is peg 1, you're at peg 1 and 2, knit off at peg 1, wrap peg 1 and 2, knit off. Every peg is getting 2 stitches on it. And that's all we're going to do, is do 1 and 2, back and forth, doing owl eye. There we go. Until we get to the lengths we want. Kind of a dark teal color here. This is a Bernay Chunky. Okay, so how I'm doing the edges is I'm just knitting, whoop, knitting over and then knitting back over. I like this edge. It gives me a nice edge to pick up the owl eye stitch. So that's the kind of edges I do on my blankets. Okay, so I'm going to have to knit doing the same thing. So what I'm going to do is just put you on pause, and then I'll catch you up when I've got long enough. Okay, well, I've gone this far and I've done this much, and this is enough to start doing the blanket. It will be more of a square, just like the one you saw going around, but if I had gone longer and done more of a rectangle, that's the basic shape your blanket will be, and then you'll get a big rectangular one. I'm just going to do this square because I'm probably not going to keep this. I will probably frog it because I have enough projects of blankets to work on for all the people I was going to give a blanket to. So all we're going to do is, so I was doing owl eye back for my last row. I was here peg 1. I'm just going to go over, finish the owl eye row, and I'm just going to knit this over once, and I'm just going to leave my yarn here. And then this is where I'm going to change color. So I'm just going to put you on pause while I go get another color, because I thought I might as well show you how I did change the color on the other one, and then you'll know how to get that particular look when you change color. You don't have to change color in the place I'm doing it, but this is the place that will give you the different rings of color. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here I am back, and here's the yarn, and I just cut it and left it about that length. Leave it down, and I have my new yarn here, and it is just the same yarn, it's just in a yellow color. And so I'm just going to make a slip knot. I'm just going to slip it on top of this one. Okay. And to get the loom hook. And then all we're going to do is start to do our corners. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 5 pegs out of here, and on the other one, as I said, I cast on 20 and took 10 out of here. And you can bind off the 5, like the 5 that I'm going to take off, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them on stitch markers. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in this stitch, and a stitch marker in this stitch. But you don't have to do it this way. Any way you save the stitches, you can put it on any kind of stitch holder you want if you're going to do it this way, or just bind it off. Bind those stitches off. But I'm just going to use them as live stitches because I'm going to do this blanket without having big ridges, and I'll show you the difference of having a more smooth blanket without big ridges, and how I did that one with the ridge. And they both look nice. It depends on the look you want. So here we are. These 5 stitches are not going to be part of the corner. They're going to be stitches that we pick up. I can leave them on there now because I won't accidentally do them, and we're going to start doing our corner because we're going this way and we want to turn this way. Now in a regular 10 stitch, what you'd have to do is do your corner 1 and 2, which would take you here. You'd have to do 1 and 2 again because you'd have to go all along this whole length and then turn this corner. But we're not doing that because we're binding off 5. We're just going to have to do 1 corner 1 and 2 because we're picking up this side now. So we're only making 1 turn to pick up this side instead of 2 turns to come down and pick up this side. So we just do our corner part 1 and 2, and we're going to do German corners. Okay, so we already have this stitch on here, so we're just going to knit this one over, and we're going to pull it tight, and then later on we're just going to weave it in to secure it. Okay. If you want, you could tie them in a knot if you don't mind the knot. I don't want to have a knot in mine, so I'm just going to weave them in later. Okay. And I'm going to come over, knit this one. I'm just doing owl eye. And go down to the last peg. And these ones we just forget about, so this is the last peg. And then we just give it a pull, and we'll get a bit of a V there. Hard to see on this dark color, so I'm going to open it up for you so you can see it. Doesn't want to open up very good, but there you go. You see there's a little pink thing in here. There we go. There's a little bit of a V, and that's because I'm pulling it tight this way. And I'm just going to go over this peg and keep doing my owl eye. And this is corner part 1. I'll be a little careful when I come here. I pulled that pretty tight, didn't I? But I want to make sure this blanket doesn't come apart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo it when I work these in, but I'm just going to actually put a really light little slip knot in here just to make sure that these don't pull out or anything while I'm working. There we go. Okay. And we come back doing owl eye. And this peg already has the V in it. So we knit this one off, and then we just pull it to get it nice and tight until we see a V, until we see this come forward so that we have the V in here. So, there we go. We've pulled that. I'll put this really close so you can see these V's better for the German corner. Little V here. Whoop, got my hair there. V like this, and here's the green little V right here. And then go over here and do our owl eye. Oops. Come to our corner, knit it off, come back, knit it over. And this time we're only going down to this one. Same thing, pull it till we get the V happening here. It should go to about the middle of the peg where you pull. This is not a very stretchy yarn, that's for sure. But it's a nice thick yarn. Okay, that one, give it a pull and knit this one over, and that's it. That's the corner part 1. Now we're going to start doing corner part 2. So to do that, we go over peg 1, over peg 2, and knit the stitch off with the V, and then come back. And back again. We're going this direction, and we're going to pick up this one with the V. And come back. And turn again. And I'm picking up this one now. And come back. And we're going to go down and pick up the last corner that we did the German corner on, the V. And here we are, picking it up right here. There. And then we just knit back. Well, we owl line it back. And if you do the owl eye loose, it won't get too tight on you. See, I actually do it pretty loose here. Okay, and then I'm just going to do the first stitch back to secure this edge. Okay, so now what we've done is done our corner part 1 and 2, and these are the 2 yarns that we're going to be tighten them up, and then we will be putting them in when we're done, and we're down to that part. And this is where we changed color, and when you change color with owl eye, it kind of looks like that. I actually like the look of it. I don't mind it at all. It doesn't you know, I think it looks nice. It's as if it kind of changed with the pattern. See, looks like that. And on the other side where you change the color, it just looks like this. Okay. On my other one, it doesn't look quite the same, and that's because I used the same color that was already in the variegated one when I turned the corner. But anyway, we're going to pick up the first stitch because we're going to be doing the side. So we're going to be, this will be our pickup. This is where we're going to pick up the new stitches. It's going to be on this peg because we've been turning the corner going this way. It's the peg we're always going to be picking up the side on. So this is the first peg that we'll be picking up. We can take it off because the stitch marker is holding the stitch. We can take them all off now if we want, but I'm going to leave them on there because I want to take the chance of the stitch markers coming apart. And we're just going to, what we're going to do is take this stitch and put it on here. We're going to be picking it up this time. Next time we'll be picking up this stitch. Oh yeah, I think I'm going to take them off because I'll be pulling them more by doing that. Okay. Okay, so I did this one already to secure it. I'm just going to tighten it up again, and I'm going to go down, and we're just going to pick up that stitch. Okay, and we're just going to take a look at it before we pick it up, because I want you to understand what I'm doing. This is now a side that I'm picking up, and all the stitches are marked that I'm going to be picking up. There they are. So if I was going to do it with a nice ridge, I would just go over like this, and then I would knit this over. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit the one over, and then come over and knit the other one over, and this will give me less of a ridge. So this is how you get less of a ridge. And then I'm just going to come back. Okay. And then the way I like to do it is once I go down about 3 pegs, I know I'm going this way, I put the next stitch I'm going to pick up on the loom. So what I'm going to do is take off the stitch marker that I just did, because I don't need it anymore. That got put on the loom. And then I'm going to be putting this next stitch on. Okay, I could even actually take off the stitch marker now that I have it on. So I'm just picking up the live stitches. Now if I wanted a ridge, I would have bound it off, because then when I picked it up I would have had more of a ridge. But because I'm going to do this with less of a ridge, and it's probably too early to see, but see, this is pretty flat. I'm not getting a ridge. There's the first stitch I picked up. And so I decided that this would be the best way to not have a ridge, is to pick them up live. Okay, so we're on our way back. Here we are. I always do it in the same place so I remember which direction I was going. And we just finish going back. And we come back. On the other blanket, I did bind them off because I did want the ridge. How do you bind off? Any bind off you want. It doesn't matter, because you're just going to come and pick up the stitches anyway. Once they're bound off, they'd be just like this because they're bound off. So you just pick them up like stitches, like that, if they'd been bound off, instead of like these little loops on here that I have. Okay, so instead of coming over and knitting them both off, I'm just going to take this one over and then do this one, and then go back. And on the third peg, I'm going to stop to put that on, because that's what I always do. Okay, then we'll come and pick up the next stitch, which is this one right here, and put it on. And then we can take the stitch marker off. And there we go. I'm picking up that side. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to go over peg 1 and 2. And there. And come back. Now, if I wanted to, I can just put this over now. Doesn't matter when I put it over. It's just that it goes over before this one comes over on it. And that keeps having no ridge. And back. Okay, here we are in peg 3. We pick up the next stitch. There it is right there. Put it on. Take off the stitch marker. Put it there. And I'm just going to knit it off now. It's perfect to knit it off now because it will hold the stitch. So that's where I prefer to do it. and come back. And I'm just going to do the whole thing with you because after all it's only 5 stitches, so hopefully the repetition will help. If you're on the computer, I'm sure there's some way to do it on your phone too. You'll have to have a look, but if you're on the computer, on your lower right, you're going to see a little gear. If you press on that gear, you can slow down the speed, so this will all go slower for you and make it easy for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, knit it off. Stop on the 3rd peg, and I'm going to put the last one on. There it is. There's the loop. Put it on. Make sure I haven't twisted it and put it on the right way. Yeah, it goes that way. You want it to be nice and flat. Okay, and then there we go. There's your last one. I'm going to knit it off like that to hold it in, going this way. And that's it. We've picked up that whole side. Okay, so I'm just going to do this to hold it. And now what you want to do is you want to make sure you've marked all your sides so you know what you're picking up. So we're going to be, we have turned the corner, we've picked up the side, we're going to do the next corner, and the first stitch we pick up. Okay, so here's our stitches that we're going to pick up, and you can see them all here. Okay, there's 2 bars here, and then there they are. I'm making them nice and big, making holes nice and big so you can see them. So we're going to be picking up the stitch, this stitch, this stitch, this stitch. We're going to be picking up this whole side down to here, and then we're going to be turning the corner. So what you can do is you can mark the stitches you're going to pick up so you don't get mixed up. This stitch is held in here. This will be the first stitch we pick up after the corner right there. Here's the second stitch we pick up. Okay. I'm going to mark the next stitch. So I'm going to put this close so you can see. I marked this stitch, this stitch. I'm going to mark this one. So I'm just going to mark the first few stitches, but you can mark them all if you'd like to, and you'd mark them all down, and the last stitch that you mark, so here's here, here's here, here's here, the last stitch you mark, but then here we're going to start picking up this side. So this is the stitch. The first stitch after the corner will be right here. The next stitch will be here, right? But I'm not going to mark it. I'm just going to mark up the first stitch for going this next way. So you go down here, and you're going to be picking up these stitches, and you can have them all marked, right? You'll be picking up these stitches. You're going to come down here, and then what you're going to do is the last stitch you do. So the first stitch after the corner is going to be this one right here. And then I would come up and I would see we'd be going this way. So here's the last stitch going this way, and the first stitch is going to be right here, and I would put the stitch marker right here. Okay, so I'm just going to take the stitch marker from here and put it on here. This is where I would have put it, right there. And I'll just use this to mark my stitch. I'll know that this is the corner that I'm starting on, and I can use one of those stitch markers too. Okay, I like to mark all the corners because when you're on here, everything's really tight. It's hard to see where that stitch is. So it's nice to have them marked. Okay, so I'm just going to come down now. And pick up this last stitch that we'd put on here. and go back, and then we start doing our corner 1 and corner 2 again. Corner part 1, corner part 2. Okay, so here's where we begin corner part 1. So this will be the stitch that we do the first German on, the German short row on. So come back, and we knit this one, and then we pull to get our V. And we just knit it off. Peg 1 and 2, we're doing owl eye all the way back. Okay, then we go down and pick up the next one. The same as what we did down there, we're doing corner part 1 and then corner part 2. So we go down here, we pull to make the German short row to get our V in here. Okay, knit this one over, always be a little bit tighter because we're pulling it tight. And then coming down here, we go back. And then we do our German short row on the next one. And pull it to make the V. A little bit tight here. And then I'm just going to knit this owl eye. Do my end. And this is the peg that we're doing the German short row on now. Pull into German short row, knit this off, come back and knit it. There we go. Now we're picking up. We're doing corner part 2. We're picking up that German short row. Okay. Now we come back again. Okay, and back. And keep picking them up until we have them all picked up. Okay, and come back. And then we go down to pick up the last one. And then this is finishing off our corner part 2. There we go. And we're going to go back, and I'm going to stop on the 3rd peg because this is the last one we pick up, like I always do, to put the next peg. So what we've done is we've done another corner. So we've turned again. It looks kind of funky till we really start going, but here's your corner part 1 and 2 that we did. We picked up the edge, and now we're doing another corner part 1 and 2, and we're going to be going down this edge. So we put the first stitch on, and because I marked it, it's going to be easy. I just pull up, and there's the stitch. Easy. So these you don't have to mark as you go down here. I did mark the first 2, so I'm going to take it out. But if you want to, you can mark them all. It'll make it easy to always pick up the right stitches. And I'm going to put one back in this corner. So here's the last stitch going that way, and here's the first stitches going this way. So I'm going to put it in. And so my corners are already all marked. And then my new corner will need to be marked, but I'll wait till it gets longer. So I'm going to keep going. Oh, I'm not going to keep going back. I'm going to put the first one on there. It slipped off again. So I'll put it back on again. Now what we're going to do is right away take it over, because what we're doing is the smaller ridge, and then I can take out the stitch marker and put it aside here, and we've picked up the first stitch. We're going to go all along this side, picking up all the stitches till we get to the last stitch, do our corner part 1 and 2, and then start picking up here. So I'm just going to go a little ways with you and then catch you up as I get a little further along. Although by now you should really understand how to do the whole thing. It's just doing the corners and then picking up the sides. Okay, and we're just going to knit this off because we already took it over the one time. And I'm going to do the way I do, always go in 3, so I know which way I'm going. And I'm going to put on the next stitch that we pick up. And it's going to be this guy right here. And when you do it, you probably, your stitch will always look a bit different depending on what yarn and what gauge you use. But this is what the number 6 looks like on the big gauge I made in Owleye. It has a lot of texture to it. Really nice texture. The other side looks like this, so it's looking very attractive too. Nice and flat, doesn't need any purls. Oh yeah, what I'm going to do, I put that stitch on, is I'm going to always knit them over and take off the stitch marker, because that holds the stitch on really nice. If I have to put the work down or something, it's held on there. And then keep going. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to keep going down the side, continually picking up all the stitches by going back, forth, putting the next stitch on, knitting it over, back, forth, next stitch on. And unless you want a ridge, and then you leave it on and knit all the yarns over at the same time. And now we've turned the corner twice. So what I'm going to do, I mean, this looks pretty funky, so I want to go further along so you can see that it's going to turn out not looking funky, is to go ahead. So I'm going to finish knitting down this whole side until I get to this orange pin here to start this side, and this is where we bound on. This is the bind off edge, so it's always going to look different than the side edges. So we're going to go down, and then we're going to be picking up where we are cast on, where we cast on. So I'm going to keep picking these up as I go along, and I'll meet you up when I've done that one. Okay, I've gone far enough you can start to see the shape is happening, that, you know, we were here, and then these ones we used for the first side. So here's where we were at 20, and then we're down to 10 if we're doing the other one, but I did 10 and 5 on this really big gauge. So we came down here, did our corner 1 and 2, and we're coming down here, still picking up the side, but as you can see, there's our square. We've come down, we're picking up the side, we'll be going around it, and so it will be a more symmetrical thing. Here's where you see the color change. And I don't mind this, I would do this, but on the other blanket, what I did was I picked a charisma color that was variegated, and then I picked a solid that was one of the colors that was in the color changes, so that when I did put it together, it sort of blended it in, because wherever it changed the color, it had a kind of a jog, and so it made it more even all over, and then you don't notice it. But I don't mind this at all, looking like this. There it is on the other side. You can use both sides. You'll have a nice square blanket. And later on, when you stretch the stitches, you'll get it perfectly looking square. Okay, so then all we're going to keep doing is we're going to keep going down and picking up the edge, and this will be the last stitch we pick up. Then we do a corner part 1 and 2 again, and you've seen me do that twice now. And then this will be the first stitch you pick up, then this, and we have less stitches we're picking up here because this is a cast on edge. If you want to, you can take the stitch markers and mark all the way along, and then you'll come down here, be the last stitch that you pick up. You'll be doing corner part 1 and 2 again, and then this is the first stitch you pick up to pick up this side. And then you'll be going around again, and you'll choose if you use another color, or if you do the whole thing as a solid color or the whole thing as a variegated. But you will have a blanket that has the big, more symmetrical square or rectangle in the middle, with the edge going around it in a 10 stitch, and you will only ever have to do corner part 1 and 2. You won't have to do the double corner part 1, 2, and then 1, 2 again if you were to do it all in 10 stitches. So now you know how to do it. I hope you have fun and you're able to make blankets. You don't have to do it just in owl eye. You could do it in the garter stitch for one that's out there. And as I'm releasing more of my stitches that are 10 stitch blankets, this can be done with any of them. Okay, so until next time, we'll see you. Bye.